Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Rav Dessler. We're going to be speaking about Hakaras hatov for the next few days. I think it's an important midah to be discussing as we're preparing for Matan Torah, as the Chazak is opening up behind me. Let's break it down, right? We know that the first Jew, whose name was Abraham, right? And Abraham is a nice Iraqi boy who recognizes that there's something wrong with the world. Yes, that's my token Iraqi. So something wrong with the world, and that has to be fixed. And he realizes clearly there's a creator, because you see a universe with so much design, you see a designer. And the one major chidush that Abraham has, the novel idea, was that God is a Baal Chesed, right? Forget the fact that he's one. Obviously, it's one. But not only is he one, but that he is a infinitely kind being. He's a loving being. And therefore, he takes on the midah of chesed. And he's teaching chesed to his followers and so on and so forth. And, that is what makes Abraham unique. Now, what's interesting is that as time moves on, he has a son, Yitzchak, who does not take on the mantle of chesed and goes to the other extreme. He takes on gevurah. He takes on justice, strict justice. And his third son, right, or the third descendant would be like Yaakov, right? And he takes on Tiferet, which is a hybridization of the two, a balance of Chesed and Tiferet and then Gvurah. But Yaakov is an amazing. He's unique in the sense that he's able to come up with that hybridization. That's his chidush. But still, even though it's true, we're called Yisrael, but we're named Yehudim after Yehuda. And what makes Yehuda so interesting, aside from the fact that he was Melech Yisrael, his mother, Leah, is the first person in the Torah to express hoda'ah, praise or gratitude to Hashem. Now, is it possible to do chesed without having gratitude? The answer is you can. You can be in a situation you're just doing chesed and are not grateful for the fact that you can even do the chesed. You just, Baruch Hashem, you're lucky to do what you could do. But Leah is the first person to recognize that it's not enough to have chesed, gevurah, and tiferet. She realized after her fourth son is born that the midah that we need is hoda'ah. And we are named after Yehuda, Yehudim, because of that particular attribute of gratitude, of hakaras hatov. Now in Hebrew, the word hakaras hatov is two words. There's no one word, gratitude, for hakaras hatov in Hebrew. And so therefore, the first word, hakara, right? What does the word hakara mean? To a recognition, an awareness of, right, of the good. And this is what Leah did. She has this recognition of the fact that, life is not just amazing and the chesed that I do, but I have to have gratitude. Now the Chachamim point out that if you're someone that does not have hakaras hatov, it could lead to something called kafui tov, which is ingratitude, the opposite of a rejection of the tov. So much of what's happened in the last 18 months almost now, since October 7th, has been a fascinating, I'm still blown away by it. I don't understand how the world responded on October 8th to October 7th.
I heard a speech
Yeah.
Shabbat by Melanie Phillips, the commentator.
Yeah.
And she said it's not a clash of civilizations, according to Samuel P. Huntington. It's a clash between civilization and barbarism, and the West had the opportunity to vote with civilization, and instead the West voted with barbarism.
Yeah, I totally hear that, but that's true. That's a very deep insight that the West, voted with barbarism and not humanity, not Western values. My question is, where did that come from? You see, the founding fathers of this country understood certain truths. Of course, there's something called equality, there's something called freedom, but they never imagined a world where its citizens would have all these rights and have all these amazing freedoms and not have an ounce of yirat shamayim, and not have an ounce of just humility to recognize that the gifts they have are unique and rare, and can so easily be lost. So, and I would say even more than that. So how does that happen? How do you get someone who 300 years ago, all these individuals, they're all young guys. You look at the people that signed the Declaration, they're in their 20s, 18 even. I forget who was 18, but someone was 18. See, young people, and they're fighting for the rights and freedoms and so on and so forth. Now, of course, they all believed in God, but believing in God is not enough, because if you believe in God, right, and you don't have a hakaras hatov, eventually you'll become to reject God itself. The concept of kibbud av, of honoring our parents, the Chachamim point out, it's there so that we can develop a relationship with God. And all too often, this is Rabbi Zachariah Wallerstein said, that if you have someone who is struggling with God, it's probably because of a relationship that is fractured with him and his father. And if you have a girl who is struggling with, her relationship, and it's coming out in mitzvot, it's probably an issue with her and her mother. The mother has to do with the mitzvot, the father has to do with Hashem. Therefore, there's a breakdown that starts first with the relationship the children have with the parents, and then it goes to Hashem. Yeah, it could be all sorts of things. I think the idea is really that this is his observation. His observation is that he's noticing these anecdotal observations of people that he's met with. That's been his experience, and I think that he's not 100%. It's not 100% of the time, but 95% is good enough for me. That when we look at ourselves, so much of our own struggles and our own issues comes from the things that we inherited from our parents.
We were surprised by Germany too, because they were the most educated, so everyone thought everything had to do with education.
Yeah, no, education was very important, but education in a system that is void of godliness is an education where there's no morality. A society without morality leads to the killing of millions and millions and millions and millions, and the destruction of society. It happens like that. You can't have civilization without a clear set of principles and morality. And all of this ties into this one idea. Meaning, if we can't teach young people to be grateful for what they have, that's the end of that civilization. And so the scary part is, so now, when I think about it in these terms, I understand why these young people are supporting Palestinians. Because the Palestinians are owed a piece of land. They're owed all these things. There's no responsibility. And because there's no responsibility, they can do whatever they want. And it's justified because the injustice is not giving them what they want, right? And therefore, of course, we should support these people. This is the worst, this is the most heinous crime on the planet. But it comes from this idea of being kafui tov, a rejection of God's goodness. When you start rejecting God's goodness, it leads to apikorsus. It leads to complete atheism. So now, if you think about our history in the last 45, 50 years in this country, the last 50 years has been a non-stop, relentless, indoctrination of anything anti-religion. If you were a student on campus, the professors came after you hardcore. Oh, you believe in God? You're so naive. You're so uneducated. Let me tell you the truth. Come to my class and I'll reveal the truths to you. There is no God. There is nothing there. And I remember this. I was a bio student at Brooklyn College. And I had a professor, she was Jewish, biology, and she's talking about the anatomy of a flower. And she says there's so much perfection and precision in this flower, it almost wants you to believe that there's a God. Almost. Right? They couldn't do it. Why? Right? The kafui tov. You don't see the goodness. The fact that God. Well, let's talk about this observation that Abraham has, which I believe when you have chesed, it leads to hakaras hatov also. Why? Because in order to be a bal chesed, you have to be someone who has anivut. You're humbling yourself. I'm serving you. I'm taking care of you. I'm thinking about you first. I'm trying to prepare and help you. It's not me. And in that space where I'm able to remove myself for a moment, because the nature of a human being is I'm selfishly thinking only about myself. Always about myself. That's the nature of a human being. This is why God challenges us with a marriage. Marriage is designed to be the perfect counterweight to get you to stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about somebody else. Most marriages crash and burn because someone in the relationship does not know how to let go of the obsession of thinking of the self, and they can't create a space for anybody else. That's where the pain comes from. Right? Working through that is hard. So you have a world where we're supposed to be trained to recognize that we're here to feel a sense of gratitude. But the word hakara requires, it demands that there's effort put in our part. You won't recognize the gratitude of the tov that God is providing for you if you have a negative mindset, or you have a I am owed everything mindset, or the world has all these injustices and it's not fair. The hakarat hatov means that it's your responsibility to work on creating an ayin tov, an eye that sees good in this world. There's a famous midrash that I love to tell, where there were these two brothers. One was married and had children, and the other was not married. And they inherited this field, they'd work together, and they'd split the produce 50-50. That was the job. So one night, the brother with the children says, you know what, I feel really bad. My brother, he has no children. When he gets old, who's going to take care of him? I have my kids, they could work. I'm going to take a percentage of my portion, and I'm going to put it in, he's not going to take it from me, but I'm going to sneak in the middle of the night, and I'll put it in his storehouse. And he grabs the stuff, and he's putting it in his storehouse. The other brother, with no children, says, you know what, my brother, he has all these kids he's got to feed. I'm one person. I'm alone. Like, I should be giving him more. He probably needs more. He's not even saying anything to me. He's grabbing his stuff, and they've been doing this for months, going back and forth, each one giving to the other. And one night, they meet in the middle of the field, and they see each other carrying bags of the stuff they're dragging to the other person. That moment, they realized what was happening. Of course, they cried, they embraced, they hugged. The Midrash says that is the spot that Hashem built the Beit HaMikdash on. Before Abraham brought Yitzchak onto the Akedah, before Yaakov sleeps there and has his dream with a ladder and the Malachim coming down, there was a story of two brothers that created this act of kindness, of just feeling a sense of hakarat hatov to the other. I want to provide for you. It's in that space, by the way, that Yerushalayim is built. That it's in that space that the Beit HaMikdash is built. It's in that space that God goes ahead and brings on the fire from above. Now, what's interesting is that the word Yerushalayim comes from the words Ir Shalom, a city of peace. Now, you know what's so ironic about that? Jerusalem was conquered more than any other city on the planet. There's no peace there. There's never any peace there. And the question is, why? Why is it that we call the city Shalom, Ir Shalom, and there's no peace there? Now, the answer to me is Pashut. God creates a world where if one thing has to be true, the opposite has to be true. My phone can disconnect me from someone 7,000 miles away. It can connect me to them in an instant and disconnect me to everyone around me in the same instant. Husband and wife, they can become so close. If they get it right, amazing. If they get it wrong, divorce. The only person who can divorce is a spouse. You need that. You gotta start over again, right? Yerushalayim can bring the world together. Now, think about what I'm saying right now. Right now, Jerusalem is still under attack, right? And if we get it wrong, the world plunges into chaos. It's the only place on the planet I know, if I take a rocket launcher and I blow up one building, World War III will start. I don't know anywhere else on the planet you could do that, right? But in Israel, Yerushalayim, that one spot, if we get it right, we will bring peace to the world. Get it wrong, we destroy it. But certainly, the way in which we learn to build it is by first developing a hakarat hatov eye, a mindset that allows us to see the tov in the world. So, what I want to do over the night, this is an introduction. What I want to do with you, Bezrat, from now until Shavuot, because Shavuot is Zman Matan Toratenu, the time of receiving the Torah, and you could have a situation where, like the Jewish people were in the Midbar, they were there ready to receive the Torah. But they were kafoi tov. They didn't fully appreciate what was given to them. They didn't fully appreciate all the miracles that happened. They didn't fully appreciate the process of going through all of that growth and change and developing and being in a situation where they're able to go ahead and receive from Hashem. So, Bezrat Hashem, over the next 2 weeks leading up to Shavuot, I'm going to go through not Rav Dessler, although I'll bring in Rav Dessler into it because Rav Dessler does speak a lot about this idea of hakarat hatov leads to giving. But we're going to go through Alei Shor. He has a nice, not short, but a long piece that I'll break down with you on how to develop this muscle of having gratitude and bringing that attitude into the world that we so desperately need. We need that attitude so desperately in the world around us. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.